I met the MC5 at a bar that they were playing at, got to be friends with Wayne, and we went and saw the two Beatles movies back to back one night. And we came out of there like just ready to take over the world. We were just, and Wayne had the MC5, he already was playing, and he wanted me to be in the band. And I wanted to be in the band too. So we went shopping for a bass guitar, and I joined the band. And I knew right away we weren't like anyone else. First of all, the two guitarists were amazing players. And we were coming from a R&B, bluesy, old rock and roll kind of place, but we had the idea to be experimental and to make it up as we went along. And we started doing that in practice. And I want to tell you, when we did that at gigs, we pissed people off. But we were getting somewhere that no one had got to before, working on it. So we knew we had to keep going to find our way. And little by little, people just gravitated to our sound because you couldn't get it anywhere else.
In the very beginning, we were the house band at the Grandy Ballroom, and we rehearsed there in the dead of winter with coats, heavy coats on. Then eventually Janis Joplin and the Big Brother band came, and we used to, at sound checks at the Grandy, we used to sit out in the audience. The place held about 2,000 people, and what we'd do is we'd sit out in the audience and watch these bands come in and do their sound checks. And cocky as we were, we would shout out and hoot and holler at them and just sort of try and screw with their heads when they're practicing. And I remember once Janis was having a problem with this one song they had just wrote. The guitar player kept messing up in the same place, and so that she'd stop the band. She'd say, "All right, everybody," and his name was Sam, and say, "Sam, gee, God damn it, get it right already." And we'd go, "Hey, kick out the jams or get off the stage." And that's pretty much how Kick Out the Jams came to be. At the MC5 at their best, and when we were actually really in tune, we would have good shows. The feeling transcended anything. I don't have the words for it. It's just this feeling of total unity with the whole universe. It's just, it transcends it. I mean, the audience and the band giving back and forth to each other. You're in another dimension. And so there's just so many different ways I could describe it. Probably the best thing is it was the most fun I ever had in my life.
The atmosphere of the times was virgin-like. It was as if we were breaking molds that had always been in place. Like if you stood out in some way, if you didn't do what everyone else was doing, you were going to be the target of abuse because people were afraid to be different. So in that time, when everyone was discovering substances and mental freedom of expression, it was dangerous. But that was the excitement of it. you know, the danger, the risk. And our point of view was to not ever be intimidated by the danger and just take it out and just go for it.
The drug thing was about freedom to do what we wanted to do. At that point in time, it wasn't about alcohol and cocaine and heroin. It wasn't about these destructive drugs. It was about kids experimenting with marijuana and LSD and more or less exploring different dimensions. It wasn't about people being, there wasn't crime involved. There was no crime involved with this exploration. It's a period that the kids went through. The long hair. We were looked down upon for long hair. We would travel to the South. The MC5 would travel to the South, where everybody, there were no Southern rock bands back then. It was the MC5. We had the long hair and the leathers. We would go down south and we had to take 2 or 3 bouncers with us in our road crew just to protect ourselves. We stopped for gas, and everybody wanted to fight. Everyone wanted to kick our ass, because who are these rebels from Detroit? You know, we were like aliens to these people.
The recording of Kick Out the Jams, I guess we kind of made it easier on ourselves. We just said, let's do it live. And that was experimental at the time. So Elektra brought their sound trucks. We hooked it up in the Grandy, that was our home turf. We knew we sounded good in there. And just knocked it down. We took 2 nights to record the record. And it was exhilarating to hear that sound and know that this was going to be there forever.
Rock music has been around, you know, in the forms that we know it since the mid-60s, you know, with the first British wave, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and a whole flood of bands. So we've been listening to rock music for 30 years, you know, and people have their favorites and they still want to go see them. And these bands that have come back, that are regrouping, are doing great business at the box office, because they're tested and they're true, you know. These are old favorites that people, this music is part of their lives, over the course of their lives. You know, where I live in Hollywood, we create this youth market. You know, it's all about youth. It's all about teenagers and the record business and the movie business, and they sell to the youth. And I don't have a problem with that. But the message that youth marketing has is not for me. I'm not a youth, and people like me aren't youths. We're grown-ups now. So it's good to see that there is something coming down the line for grown-ups, you know. In fact, the motto of our record company is New Rock for Grown-ups. You know, I'm not the same guy I was when I was 19 years old when I played in the MC5, you know. I'm a different man today. I'm a grown adult. I'm 54 years old. I'm concerned about adult things today. Doesn't mean I don't want to rock. Doesn't mean I don't rock, because I do rock, you know. I rock a little harder than I did then because I can play better now. I can write a better song now. I'm the man for you.
Well, we've been in contact off and on in the 90s, and I think before that we decided we were a bad influence on each other, and so there was a long period where we didn't see each other.
Yeah, breaking up was hard to do.
Yeah, but you had your Corvette lifestyle to lead.
I had the Corvette lifestyle, and you had the what? You wanted to become the Marlboro man on the
Marlboro
horses?
man, and so I headed out to Arizona in 1987 and bid the Midwest goodbye.
Yeah, Michael said goodbye to the Midwest, and I stayed back in Detroit and worked in a few machine shops and built some robots and made some parts for the F-15 fighter plane, and stayed in Detroit and played in a few bands. And Michael and I, we saw each other in '91. We played at the benefit for Rob Tyner at the State Theater. And then when Fred passed away in '94, we saw each other at that time.
That's right. I played in several bands. A couple bands I played in for 6 or 7 years at a time, and did some touring, did a lot of touring of Europe in the last 5 or 6 years. And outside of that, earning a living and just being a guy, you know, and trying to amass a fortune or several vehicles at one time and collect old cars and raise children, you know, just things like that.
Just a regular guy, huh?
You know, fairly normal.
Fairly normal.
Kind of existence,
well-adjusted.
But I've never been
What about the brain damage?
that normal.
No, you never were normal.
No.
Michael was a bad influence
Well,
on me in the band
I
ever
don't-
since the get-go.
I don't
was
subscribe to normality at all.
define normal. I don't know. Who's normal? I don't even know.
Normal is like what everyone else does.
I guess.
And that's not me.
Really.
For me, if I listen to James Brown or John Coltrane, that music reaches out to me and touches me in a way that tells me I'm not alone. Like reading great literature, you know. I don't know if you think Charles Bukowski's great literature. I happen to love his writing. When I read it, he tells me I'm not alone. I'm not the only maniac out here, you know. If I had to sum up what the spirit of the MC5 was, it was the sense of possibilities, that it was possible that we could invent a new way of playing music, that we could push sounds into new dimensions, that we could make it more visceral and more passionate. The possibilities that we could have maybe a new lifestyle, that we all wouldn't live in these little boxes that all looked like each other. Maybe we could all live together and work together. That was something that was important to the MC5. The possibility that there could be a new kind of politics, that we didn't have to go along with things just because it was always Republicans and Democrats. Maybe there's another way to do this. Maybe there's a Green Party. Maybe there's a third way. Maybe there's a fourth way.
I think that that we realized we had a responsibility in the world, that people were looking at us and wondering what we would do to handle the situation. And all we could really do was be ourselves. And I don't think we changed the world very much, and all the political stuff, nothing really changed. The world's the same, or maybe worse. But what people remember is the music and what we were wearing, the clothes we had on. And that's part of why we're here today, is because people want to find out, people want to rediscover that sort of freedom.